Hey everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Transformation Tuesday is today. Welcome to, if you've never been here before, welcome to Transformation Tuesday, Reclaiming Me, where we're launching a war on trauma. If you weren't here last week, I did have a special guest, Q's Flavors, and he will be coming back today. What's up, Elle? Just to kind of unravel what we talked about at the end of the show, we're going to kind of start there. But just to kind of go over what we did last week, we talked about trauma in the pandemic and how everybody's feeling about that. We talked about the positive things going on. Hey, Rachel. We talked about why people don't confront their traumas and speak out. There's just a whole bunch of things. Even today, up to today, I'm like, there's certain traumas I've noticed that I'm starting to grab onto as far as Uber driving. Like the whole mask thing is starting to drive me nuts. Just to let y'all in on a little bit of that, I don't feel like you should be that close to somebody without having a mask on. And Uber just on the 18th, which was Monday, said everyone needs to wear them. People are not taking it seriously at all. If you do not basically have a, hey, Cherry Bomb 131, if you, sorry about that, Siri decided to jump in. So if you don't have a mask on, basically your Uber driver can cancel your ride because they're trying to make sure that we're all safe. I always wear a mask no matter what. I feel like everybody else should wear a mask too for the safety of me. I personally have asthma and respiratory issues, and so do my children. I don't want to take nothing home just because we can go outside. I know I live currently in Arizona. We can go to stores now. We can go outside. Basically, everybody is out and about, and it's scary to me because we went from being inside to basically everybody being on top of each other. I'm watching people at the bar right next to each other, like squished in, and I'm not feeling it. But anyway, at least in my car where I can control it, I'm trying to stay safe. And so I will be that Uber driver that will cancel your ride if you decide you don't want to wear a mask. I mean, am I wrong for that? What y'all think? Am I wrong? I could be, but I'm still trying to be safe. I'm not ready to start getting out there and doing a whole bunch of things. But anyway, so what we talked about last week was Q came on and he was giving us a little bit about some scenarios that basically he has seen happening in the media as far as trauma. Also giving us a little bit about I guess there was a Bootsy situation. Also he was talking about Dwayne Wade and kids not knowing at what age they can choose their sexual partner or their sexual reference and all of that. So he talked a little bit about that. Hey, Q's in, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to get him in here. I don't see a request from you. Let me see if I can request you, Q. I was just kind of going over a little bit of what you talked about, and I'm gonna let you preface it, and then from there I'll kind of jump into, we can have a conversation about it this time because I know we had like limited time. It was at the end of the show last time. So give me just a second to add him. Oh, you're not coming up. Are you still on here, Q? I don't see him to be able to add him to. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. So he's driving, guys, so it might be a little different. Hey there.
Hey, just I'm good. Just bear
Is
with
it
me. I'm
dark?
pulling over. Yes, I'm. It's not about to be. I'm pulling over, so bear with me.
Okay.
Uh,
What's up, Steve? I
but
see Steve just joined. Um, oh, so I'll just kind of go over. Give me 2 seconds, real quick. I'll just kind of go over what you were talking about, because I rewatched our little session we had last week. I rewatched it. And so I just wanted to follow up with you on some of the topics we were talking about. You did mention Dwayne Wade kind of and his stance on I guess how he's raising his child, and how kids really don't know at a certain point. Also, you touched on
Right.
healing and how there are stages of healing. And then you talked
Correct.
about, lastly, you talked about Dwayne Wade approaching Lil Boosie, right? About um,
Correct.
a situation regarding a little boy, but only because the little boy, nothing to do with the little boy, but because he attacked his situation with his boy, correct? I'm just
Correct.
making sure I'm all on the same page and everybody's caught up. All right.
Yes.
So, listening to some of those comments, I just want to kind of go over my feelings on some of the things, because we didn't get to really talk about that last time. Oh, I can actually see your face this time. How are you
I'm good. How
doing?
you feeling?
um, I'm good. I'm good. So, as far as the situation with Dwayne Wade, let's start there, because that's where we started last time. My
Right.
stance on that is there has to be, for that child, and any child, I'm believing,
Mhm.
there's something he witnessed, because I don't think you're born a certain
Has to
way,
be for
right?
that
So
child
I
and
believe
any
certain
child, I believe.
behaviors,
Sorry. There's
oh,
something.
I'm echoing.
Nope, that's me. I'm sorry. I'm pulling you up on
Okay.
a different device. Sorry about that.
So for me, I don't think you're born anyway, right? Now, how you develop certain things when you're a child, some of it
Mhm.
is trauma. But we don't know any of that, right? We
Right.
don't know what happened with Dwayne Wade's son, what his upbringing's like, who raised him, who didn't raise him, who's around, who's not, who's cross dressing, who's doing what. We don't know any of that, right? For my stance on that, I
Right.
feel like uh, basically we have a responsibility to mold children, right? So if your
Mhm.
child is experiencing certain things, you need to actually step in and find out why my child is going through these things, instead of just being like, okay, I support you 100% and just going with it, which I agree with that 100%. That's kind of what you said. Nobody at
Right.
12 really knows any of that. Now, you can be taught a behavior like that too. Just like a racist doesn't know they're a racist until somebody shows them they're a racist, right?
Absolutely.
It's
So
kind of
that's
similar for
exactly
me.
no, and that's exactly what I was going to say. It's very similar to racism. Hatred is a learned behavior. It's definitely not something that you just grow up thinking or feeling. And again, with kids, when you start allowing them to alter their body or lifestyle or create any kind of alternative for themselves without research, without understanding the effect of what
Hmm.
you're about to do,
Right.
um, it's I understand, and I've had people in my family make smart comments in regards to my kids. So, for example, I've had people say, you know, uh, my daughter, one of my daughters is well, now she's 16, but I can recall 12 and 13. People like, well, you don't let her wear crop tops or makeup and this and that. And I'm like, and I'm trying to explain to them, you can do what you want with your child, but I feel like certain things, again, if they don't understand the effect of it, for
Right.
example, me allowing my daughter to wear makeup at a young age, people are like, oh, there's just nothing wrong. It's different if you're like 3, 4, 5, right?
Hmm.
Because they're not going out the house. It's
Right.
not, only a sexual predator would look at a baby in that manner. But if your
Right.
daughter at some point has boobs, breasts, or whatever, and I try to explain to people and tell them, listen, this the same reason why you would put on it is the same reason why a male will look at a girl. Like when somebody see a young girl with nail polish and makeup and all of this on and
Right.
push-up bra, they're not going to say, oh, she's young. It's the cause of it is to draw attention. This is, when women put it on, they want to feel better about themselves, or they say, what's the first thing you do when you want to go catch a man? You're like, let me get glammed up. Let me be a whole another person. So we have to be responsible for uh, the guidance of our kids and what they're
Right.
learning. And I just think that too many people are trying to be their kids' friends and trying to fit in with what they feel is going on today. But again, that's a whole nother big topic, because that would at in that point it would turn into influence, which I
Right.
think would happen with Dwayne Wade's kid. I mean, we
Right.
don't know, but
I don't
now,
know.
right. So I'm agreeing with you because again,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think we don't know because just because they're rich or wealthy,
Right.
we don't know who they're around. But then again, if you stick a kid, that's like one of my teenage sons. He right now he this boy never lived in the projects. He's super sheltered and spoiled. But when you stick him in a group of kids who come from that environment, he starts to lean on that influence.
Right.
So it's so many different ways that could have came from. But again, as
Right.
parents, it's our job to protect our kids, even if they don't understand it.
Right. And that's why I kind of wanted to jump back in and start, breaking it apart, because a lot of these things are important. And a big part of like my background and my experience with even trauma was I learned it. It was something that was, allowed in my household. It was some things that
Mm-hmm.
happened to cause a behavior of how I thought. And so it does change that when a child sees certain things, like again, I don't know what happened in Dwayne's. I'm not even going to begin to try to say I know, because I don't. I don't believe that a child is just born that way. So I hear that a lot. I don't believe that. That's not my personal experience. That's not, didn't just say, oh, I experienced, being molested, and that's okay because that's what I went through. No, it was an experience I had, and I made a choice of how I deal with it as I got older. So as a
Absolutely.
parent, I feel like you definitely need to decide how you deal with it once it is approached. So if you just go along with it and that kid's even confused at the minute, I think that's where we mix signals and it gets out there and people are like, oh, he's supporting this. Maybe even like on Dwayne's side, maybe he just does it. Maybe he's afraid of criticism as well, or he doesn't know how to deal with it, but then get help. Like you said last time, don't just sit in something. If you don't know and you're ignorant to something, get help, especially when it has to do with your child and you're growing somebody up to be something, it makes a difference. And then I guess your second
Right.
point that you jumped into is you had an experience where someone basically spoke up about something, but it was hard for them because of the environment and different steps you have to take to come out of situations is not that hard. So that I think went with, why people don't stick up or how they cope and all that different things we were talking about last week. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
things that kind of just make you not want to stand out, not want to say anything, the backlash that comes from being embarrassed and then being in different environments and standing your ground on what's going on with you.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because as you're saying that, like I'm thinking about, especially whether it's men or women, it can go the same way, right? And the embarrassment of dealing with these things and criticism, because unfortunately we don't live in a world where the victim is immediately the victim. Sometimes the victim, becomes, you know, it's the person who we attack, which sucks because if you think about it from the aspect of, like you said, like, with my brother going through what he went through, where it's a male molesting a boy, that's so, I can't even imagine trying to, like, if it happened to me, coming out and
Mm-hmm.
speaking about it. So I commend him for it. But even if it was in a situation, if it was a boy and it happened like with an older lady, yeah, I think if a
Right.
boy came out and said it, most people, instead of like protecting that person, they would be like, "Man, you stupid, you soft, man. I would have been doing this and that." And then nobody as a child, like taking somebody's innocence is just, it's again, people are stupid. And can you imagine it's the same for a girl? When
Right.
an older man takes advantage of a young girl, or even an older women, because older women do it all the time too. Coming forward is always going to be difficult. But one thing I can say, and I don't normally get on too many lives. It's just not my thing. But one of the reasons why I support uh, your movement and L's movement is because whether it's marriage or divorce or family or anything like that, these platforms are needed because people need to see, hey, I'm not the only person dealing with this,
Right.
or even how to deal with it. Because again, sometimes you don't know you're dealing with something or going through something. Like you don't know you're alcoholic until somebody tells you. And I think
Mm,
for some people, you don't realize you've been taken advantage of until uh, hearing other situation and saying, wait, so it's not okay for, hypothetically, my uncle to touch me, or it's not.
right.
Oh, so, we don't sleep in a bed naked together. I'm going based on stories that I've heard. Like, so, and if nobody points out and say, hey,
Yep.
that's not okay, then what happens is you continue the cycle. So that's why I try to tell people, like, I understand sometimes we get upset at people who are, like you talked about with your mother, and maybe not realizing the things that are going on, or maybe not even accepting it per se.
Right.
Because again, if you went through trauma and you don't understand that, it's so crazy if you think about the generation before us went through a lot of traumas and rape
Right.
and things of that nature. And not to get too deep, but if we think about it just a little bit further, you got to think the generation before our generation, well, like our grandparents and great
Mm,
grandparents, they were victims of slavery and
right.
trading and stuff. So when people are at that point getting raped and all these crazy things, even from that point, it was always taught, shut up and just deal with it. And
Yeah.
I think that mentality came down to our parents' generation, and those traumas just continue. So we never really get the full help that we need, because either we're told to shut up and deal with it, or this is normal, or we, unfortunately, with the new generation, they make fun of everything, rape, death,
Right.
everything. So
Right.
it's just unfortunate. So these, like I said, these platforms that you guys are creating are very necessary, because somebody has to teach these people, like, it's okay to recognize your hurt, recognize your trauma, and to deal with it, and
Yeah.
move forward. Moving forward
Yeah.
is the biggest piece, and I love your strength for moving forward and being able to talk about it and
Thank
candid, because a
you.
lot of people, they don't do that. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, you're not past it and you haven't dealt with it until you can do that. Because
I
people will be
agree.
like, I'm over this. I'm over this
Mhm.
breakup. No, you're not, because you're still stalking that person's page. Like
Right.
you haven't dated nobody else. So I commend you. I commend anybody else
Thank
who
you.
has your strength. And again, it's what makes me say I need to stand behind that person. And because even though you've healed from it, you always still need that support, and to let people know, like, hey, you're strong, you're amazing, you're a survivor. So, and I
Right.
love these things. So
Yeah.
but you know what? And for anybody who may have went through anything, and maybe they don't want to talk about it on here or anywhere for that matter, just understand the fact that you still live to see another day, the fact that you're not strung out somewhere, you're a survivor, you're a champion, and just keep going. You win when you keep moving and when you keep living.
Amen. That's it.
Like,
That's it.
so,
I
eh,
agree. So my biggest thing with this, that's why I started the platform, as you know, is for healing. So if I get, just one more person to heal, and I said that when my very first show, I said that. I said, I'm now no longer a victim, I'm a survivor, because there's a difference. And I don't think sometimes people even know the difference between the
right,
two.
right,
So you can tell your story all day long, but if you haven't acknowledged any of it or made it any better for the future generation, have you really healed from it? Have you really, made a tremendous step in making it any better? And even as a society, we have to get better at calling some of this stuff out. Like, call it out. Like, yes, you may have had a
absolutely.
traumatic situation, but if you're witnessing stuff and you're not saying something about it, you're just as bad as the person that did it to you or allowed it to happen to you. We got to stop it at some point. And where does that conversation start? So
Mhm.
healing's great. It's freeing, because when you start to heal, then you're able to unleash some of that hurt and let in people even more. Sometimes you push
Right.
people away so much because you haven't healed, so you can't accept the love you need. You don't know how to do some of those things because you're just hurt. You're hurt and you don't know how to push forward. I think one of the last things, let me go over some of these comments. Let's see. Elle says
Mm-hmm.
with technology
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
today,
at now.
yeah, we have the ability to get help with anything. It's a choice. We have to find a way to grow beyond our fears. Absolutely. Easier said than done sometimes, I know,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point we make a choice to live with the pain at a tolerance level or find a way to freedom. I agree with that 100%. I think that's the key right there. Are you, and like you said, there's levels though. If you take the first level,
Mm-hmm.
that's still a step. You take the first
Mm-hmm.
step, then you're on your way. But I think some people take a step and like you said, they get discouraged by people. So I think it's important also to be around healthy people and step away from toxic a lot of the times too. Because if you know you're surrounded by toxic
Right.
people and there's no availability to step out. So sometimes it's okay to be alone and learn that, hey, all these people have hurt me. So I need to take a step back to heal me before I can be strong enough to be in these situations. A lot of it is
Absolutely.
accountability. Absolutely. Cherry Bomb says it's sickening. I think she was just talking about some of the things that you were talking about as far as everything, like people being
Right.
touched, people having traumatic situations. Elle says, thank you. Absolutely right. A lot of people have joined. Hey, everybody who has joined so far. And a lot of agreeing. Cherry Bomb says, I'm a survivor. Elle says, come on and preach, Q.
Great job,
And
Cherry. I'm
then
proud of you.
Cherry Bomb says, the sweeping under the rug must stop. Amen. So I guess the last point we kind of touched and talked about was you were talking about Little Bootsy and how I guess there was an act that happened with a child and him entertaining this
Mhm.
situation. And so Dwayne
Right.
Wade, and this is just I'm trying to understand because I don't like to watch the
Right.
news and stuff. Honestly, to
Right.
me, it's kind of depressing.
Right.
But I understand that Dwayne came back at him and said, "Well, you did X, Y, and Z since you want to talk about my situation." And to me, I'm not cool with that because if you have a situation going on in your own household, that doesn't mean you can throw stones at other people's situations. There's two problems there. One is the throwing of stones because
Right.
one, are you advocating for the child or are you just mad because he said something about your situation and called you out?
Well, well, just to make sure you understand, so it wasn't Dwayne Wade directly that said something. It was
Okay.
the blogger from the Hollywood like it's a pop. He's on the Love and Hip Hop and all of that. But nonetheless,
Okay.
he's a popular blogger. But he's also gets super gay and flamboyant. Um, what happened is Boosie he didn't like what Little Boosie had to say in reference to um, Dwayne Wade's child. Now again,
Okay.
I don't have an issue throwing my personal preference. I mean opinion, which I didn't. I feel 100% behind his what he said, which was the boy is 12. Don't cut
Mhm.
his thing off. He don't know what he's doing right now.
Right.
Protect that boy. And he's from the hood, so it came out a lot harsher, a lot more curses and all of that. But he was 100% right in my opinion.
Mhm.
I don't think he was mad at the whole gay thing. Um, it was just like, he's not. Don't make that boy a girl. And
Right.
again, even if and even if it's wrong for him to state his opinion or whatever the case is, fine. If you're gay and you feel like he taking a shot at that and you want to block him from your blog, cool. But what I didn't like about the blogger was the fact that he decided in return. He said I wasn't going to talk about Boosie no more, but how about we basically protest and make Boosie get locked up? Boosie, like a lot of men, hired a female to
Mhm.
have some type of sexual relations with his son, who is a teenager, and his cousin. So a lot of people were pissed off at that and saying like he should be
Mhm.
locked up. Now again, I it's difficult because
Okay. So
and I'm
so
glad that
so it's difficult for me because I mean,
well,
even if a trauma happened, it's not okay, but it's been taught that that's okay.
so right. So and I'm glad that me and you we had a brief conversation and when I was saying I was like, please it's so rough when you speak like via text or any kind of like
Right.
writing because it can always come off wrong.
Hmm.
So what I will say so people understand, I don't agree with Boosie getting adults to teach or have sex with the kids. The reason he said he did it was because he wants to make sure his sons be men and not gay. Now,
Ah.
whether it's from the South or anywhere, I know plenty of people that have done it, and I'm not agreeing with it at all.
Hmm.
I've seen other celebrities say they've had people hired crackheads to perform stuff on them as kids. Now,
Wow.
um, it's bad, right? If
Right.
a person is not knowledgeable that something is right and wrong, I
Hmm.
don't think immediately jail is the first thing we should go for. I think education is important because
Okay.
the only thing if that's going to make them do is the people coming up under him is be mad because we're not going to focus on the fact that hey, you don't need to uh, get this kid an adult to have sex with. The people are going to focus on so you're retaliating and you're bullying because he don't like gays or in your opinion
Right.
because that's
Right.
what he said and I just think that
Okay.
that's wrong. If you're going to advocate for the kid and say I don't think that you should have cool, but don't do it because you're mad because you felt like he was against gays. That's
Right.
completely wrong. Because if
Right.
that's the case, what if we attack people who are gay for not being straight, right? Like
Right.
then all of it that's a hate crime. Literally, it's a hate crime. So it's it's
So
it's a sucky situation, but that's a very
I think the situation is what you're talking about. The situation is different
right,
than, because of how his upbringing, and several men is basically what you're saying, are brought up to where I'm gonna teach him what he should like versus what he shouldn't like. However, at the same point, like you said, that doesn't make it right. So here's my scenario on the whole thing. I understand that that's what Boosie was taught, but whether him or, and it shouldn't be, first of all, think about the child. If you are really thinking about the child in this situation, then you would have addressed it in a different way regardless.
right,
It wouldn't have been all over social media. So really, you're not trying to bring it out. You weren't going to bring it out unless it was, a reason to say something that basically benefited him and his blog. And that's what I'm taking out of it. However, I feel as a person who has been touched or molested, I wish somebody, I don't care who it would have been, had said something. And if that person would have got locked up, if I could have said something and I felt like that position would have, I would have been okay in that position as a child,
hmm
I would have spoke up. So
right,
to say I don't, it should be a learning experience and that person shouldn't get locked. That part I don't agree 100%. The way he did it, 100%, I agree that it should not be put out there because then you're putting the kid out there for turmoil. Both of those kids, if you're saying it was two of them, but at the same point, like you have to at some point know it's not right and have a break to be like, oh shit, this isn't okay. Because at what point, who's teaching that this is not a right behavior? Because like you said, everybody's doing it. There are certain people who are, saying because it's a boy, it's okay. But if it happens to a female, it's not okay. And in that same scenario, if a female has this happen to them, and they decide that they're going to make a living off of that. For example, there are a lot of young women who are prostitutes or decide, I've been molested, I can handle this, it's an easy way to get money, blah blah blah, and they take that and they run with it, then they're locked up for that. Like same
right,
thing like you're saying, but they don't know better. So there has to be some middle ground where we get that out and get people help, but at the same point, some people don't learn that easy. So if Boosie
right,
decides to do this again, then
right.
at what point did he learn?
Right. But again, I think he's smart enough because, like, for example, if the right person comes and talks to him and says it in the right manner, then I think the reception would be taken well. Because again, how you come at a person and who it is makes all the difference. And it's funny again as we talk, so many different things come to mind. like how you said with the if it was a girl, right? The funny thing is, it happens a lot. Like
Mhm.
so I'm not from the South per se. My family is, we're from New York, but I got plenty of family in the South. But I know a lot of people, but it happens definitely more in the South where men, older men, go for the younger women, and it's been okay for a long time. Now,
Mhm.
from what I when I've asked questions, I say, well, why go for these young girls? Like, why not go for somebody who's developed? Like, why not a woman? People say, well, the younger you can groom them, you can do this and you can do that, and
Mm.
it's been taught it's a mental thing, and the way people make it sound is like, no, that's okay. So if I take this 15, 16-year-old girl, her mind, I can develop her into the woman that I want. And I'm like, what? Like, but for a lot of
It's
people, it's okay.
manipulation. That's manipulation.
Right. So I don't think that a lot of people see it. And again, because things are not talked about as much, um, you know, now because of social media, because you put certain things on social media, it's a wildfire. But think
Right.
about prior to social media. Like, if you look at our parents, a lot of parents, there's a big age gap. And a lot of, like, the dad might be like 60 and the mom is like 40, 45.
Mhm.
That didn't just start at that moment. You think 20, 30 years prior to that,
Right.
one was an adult and one was a kid. And I just think that, again, unfortunately, those not normal behaviors were very normal, and it just
Right.
keeps getting passed down.
Yeah.
And it's like, at what point, and who's to say it's not normal? So I think that's where the problem comes in, because
Yeah.
nobody's saying it's not normal. Um,
Mhm.
but it's just up to us as people to say, hey, that's not normal. Again, and giving people that comfort zone to letting people know, like, that's not normal and it's not okay.
Yeah, and also still being aware of your parenting because at 16, that's still your child. So where the hell are you where they're laying up with a 20 something year old? How
So the
involved are
problem,
you in your kids? I mean, to a point, like yes, they get older and they start doing certain things, but you have to still have a hold at an early enough age to where at 16 they're still respecting you because you're in their face. You're a lot of things that I'm seeing, like I said last episode, time. You can't get time back with kids. If I get
right,
to 16 and you ain't been around, I'm not gonna start listening to you now.
right.
What you're
Well,
saying to me don't hold
exactly,
a bunch of weight.
exactly. Unfortunately, everybody's not good at parenting because they only go by what they know. And you got to think, some people are so, I'm not going to be how my parent was. So if
Yeah.
my parent was strict, I'm going to let my daughter do whatever. I'm going to let my son do whatever. And then it's learning, it's living and learning. So I don't agree with everything, but I mean, that's the way God made everybody, right? Everybody's different. Otherwise,
Right.
we all be robots. So,
Right.
um, I mean, but again, I'm not here to say if gay or straight is right. The only thing I'm here to say is, when you take a stance against something, stand on
Hmm.
it for the right reasons.
Right.
That's
No,
all.
I agree with that. I
And
agree with
that and
that.
that, and I just think that's my whole position. And if he would have called Boosie and took him behind closed door and say, "Yo, this is what I feel," or whatever the case is, or even if I just can't respect it because your
Right.
heart wasn't pure,
The
and that's
approach
what's
was
important.
off. Correct.
Very. So
And your intentions were bad because at some point, like, were you trying to help the situation or make it worse? And I think that's where we need to step up and say, how can I make a difference in this instead of just having an opinion of it. Everybody got something to say. Everybody got an opinion. My
right,
grandma used to say an opinion's like an asshole. Everybody got one, right?
right,
So if you have an opinion about something, or even yourself, you've been through a trauma and you're like, oh, that's not right, but you won't say nothing about it, then what good is it? What good is your opinion? Keep your opinion to yourself. And if you see
absolutely.
something going on with a child, say something, because if you don't, then who's sticking up for that child? Like, don't expect the parent to know better. And I am saying, say something. If you want to make it known that this happened, or get that person help, or understand the situation, then speak out about it, and don't just say it for likes, or that's a real big thing right now. You want likes, you
Mhm.
want followers, you want this and that. It's not for attention. This ain't no game. Like, speak up. If you want to say something, get get behind it for real, for real. Like,
Right.
that's not cool to me, to just make a forest fire and then walk away from it. That's not cool. It
No,
affects a lot of
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. But and here's what I'll say too, right? And tying back to the whole reclaiming me topic or stance, a lot of times we again, I can only feel only but so much of a way towards parents when they allow their kids to go through things because they haven't reclaimed themselves. They haven't learned to love themselves. They haven't healed. And they haven't healed because
Hmm.
they don't understand that they've been through something. So,
I
you know,
agree.
at some point, the best thing that can happen is in order for a generational curse to break, somebody has to realize that it is there. And when they do, they can stop it and start a whole new chapter of life for
Hmm.
not only them, but the people moving forward because now they won't let their kids go through those things. They won't let their brother or sister go through things. So, and at that
Hmm.
point, that's when, once you realize that, I think that's when you can say, okay, I reclaim myself. I've learned to love myself, and
Yes.
again, I stress to anybody who's been through anything, not like forget about just rape, and because for some people this is not your topic, and if this is not your topic,
Right.
perfect. But what I will say, because it's trauma is anything, I would
Hmm.
say don't allow any kind of hurt or damage hold you back, stop you from growing, or stop you from living. Too
Yeah.
many people walk around holding baggage and they're
So
angry and
true.
they're frustrated and they're sad and they're depressed over something that if you really sit back and think about it, you like, what? Me? I'm
Right.
better than that. You didn't
Right.
even deserve my time. But instead they've allowed these people to have such a chokehold on them that just suffocating them and killing them
True.
mentally, physically, and emotionally. You know,
Hmm.
and some people I know around me, I'm not going to say who they are, but I tell them all the time, like, you've suffered things in the past, and I know one person specifically. Again, I'm not going to say on who that person is, but one of the issues that we have is I tell them like it sucks because every person that you have a issue with, when you leave that situation, not just relationship, but anybody, friend, sibling, whatever, you are damaged and you're walking around with so much weight on your shoulder because you don't know how to drop it, let it go,
Right.
and move on. I don't know, and maybe it's easier said than done for me because I'm the
It
type of
is.
person like I don't know. I've been through a lot in my life, and that's not no. I don't want no sympathy and anything like that. I just learned that like you could smack me today and tomorrow or like 20 minutes later, like I might be furious now, but in a few minutes, like I done basically forgot why we even arguing because
Right.
I don't know. God just blessed me with that where I don't hold on to things. I'm
Grudges.
a lesson learner. So if whatever happens to me, and I encourage this to people because again,
Hmm.
please, if you go through anything, I'm telling y'all, the best thing, the best thing that could have happened for some of us is going through some of the things that we did. I'm so glad I grew up in the projects. I'm so glad that I've been in a gang. I've been through all of these different things because you know why? It made me who the man I am today. It made me learn about myself. It made me learn
Hmm.
about places I would never take. Like I look at things now and say I would never subject myself to that. I would never put my
Right.
family in this position. Like you
Yes.
learn so much, and
Yes.
even a person who, let's say you've been sexually abused. Now I'm gonna try to make a laugh and a joke out of it. You know, sometimes people be like, "Man, I was young and I was doing this and that, and I just learned this and that and too early." And I'm like, well, hell, guess what? Now you just got more experience for the person you're putting it down on. So now, so you know,
No,
now you got
that can be true too, though. It
like,
can
yeah,
be.
like, come on, like, you know what? Like, guess what? Now you're not approved, and I mean that's just making light of the situation because I can turn anything for me. Like I break my foot, I'm like, oh, now I learn how to hop. Like, I just make, I just
I
try to
think
make the
that's a
best of
positive.
everything.
It's good to have
Absolutely.
a positive outlook on things because it helps you get through life. When you're constantly on the negative tip, when you're constantly going through things and you're not surviving things, but you're a victim in everything, you can't. That's not a way to live. So for me, one of the things, and welcome anybody who has never came or is coming in and joining. Welcome. Let's see. I just want to go over a couple of these comments real quick. I had Cherry Bomb said, it's sad to think that people think that is okay. Doing those things does not ensure that the kid won't be gay. So she's talking about the Boosie situation and why he
Right.
did what he did. Elle says, peace is his priority, it sounds like. Yeah, and Elle talks about that a lot on her show too. Just peace being your priority, um, and just surviving your pain with a purpose. She also says, facts, my pain produced my purpose, which I just said. I'm a great woman due to my hardships. And I think that's super important. It's important for us to own some of that stuff. And me and you had a conversation, and I'm not going to go too much into our conversation, but one of the things we talked about is you asked me a question. You said, have I forgiven people who have done bad things to me? And my
Hmm.
answer was yes. And I think some people tend to say, well, how can you do that? Why would you do that? You know, that person did you so wrong and you've experienced all this stuff and all the negative that comes with it, right? But to
Hmm.
me, forgiveness is about something different. Forgiveness is about me not allowing that person to have anything over me, because in majority of my situations, I knew that that person had, one, like you said, learned that from somewhere. They had their own dramas and traumas they were living with. So why am I going to carry their trauma and mine? Do you know how much of a burden that is to
Hmm.
carry? You
Yep.
shouldn't have to do that. So when you do that, when you take that on and you're not able to heal and you're not able to walk forward, sometimes that can be a detriment to yourself, to your health, to your your mindset, to how you think about things. It makes a difference. So yes, I have made peace with all those situations because that's how I was able to get to my healing. And that's important. You got to start there. If you can't forgive that person, they can come back in and out whenever they want to, because they have control of your mind, you know. and
Absolutely.
and that's something that you don't want to give somebody, any
I'm
aspect of.
absolutely. Listen, I'm telling y'all, the moment you learn how to love yourself, and not even about loving yourself, because even before learning loving yourself is learning yourself. So, and learning other people, right? I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, I can only if I'm with you every day and every day you kick me, and I'm not surprised that you kicking me when I see you again. Don't kick me, right?
Hmm.
So when you learn to forgive people, the moment you forgive people, it's like a weight is shed off you. You can't. It's you're gonna keep getting left back in life if you don't forgive people, right? Because how can you move on to the next phase or the next lesson in life when you're so focused on this one thing? So
Right.
until you say, okay, you know what, let me deal with this, let me leave it behind, you're gonna keep dragging your mind can't focus on the next phase of your life. And I'm telling you, I've seen so many people where it's just holding them back. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I could say for myself, and I'm not perfect. And I have friends and people close to me, and they always say, well, you're different, God made you different because you could just forgive people. And I'm like, no, it's just, I don't know, I'm a very simplistic person. And again, I can forgive you, and the main reason why I forgive people, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm different, and everybody has their right to believe what you want to believe and whatever source. But for myself, again, it's always biblical. How can I sit here
Yeah.
and say I love you and I'll forgive you, and I'm asking God for forgiveness when I won't forgive this person who is human like me? So
Right.
just learn to forgive people, and I guarantee you, the moment you do, you're gonna have a weight lifted on you off you. I just don't give people that power. I don't.
Exactly.
I don't, because And think about whenever somebody hurts you. Like people be like, "Oh, this person hurt me. They broke my heart. You cheated on me." I'm you sitting up thinking about how to like get them back. Meanwhile, they done moved on. They got a new boyfriend, new
Right.
girlfriend. They done went and brought them some shoes. They done forgot about you.
Living their best life, and you still
Nah,
in the corner
sitting there
crying about it.
crying your heart out for months and
Yeah.
for weeks and for years, and again, it's just like why, why?
Yeah.
You should love yourself more than that to ever let anybody hold you down. And you
100%.
know, back in the day, people, the slaves would always say, you can beat my body, you can kill my body, but you can't take my soul. You can't take my
Right.
mind. And
Right.
and if you get that within yourself, nobody could ever do anything to you. Like I don't care if you punch me in the face or whatever. You can't make me
Right.
love myself less. You can't make me look at life any different. A matter of
Right.
fact, if anything, I'm gonna love you harder because I know that's what you need.
Right. And I think one of the other things that we talked about was with forgiveness. I think people, you're frozen. Can you see me? Thank you. I don't know. Okay. Did you see me? Was I frozen? What was going on? Because I saw the little circle come up. Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Okay. So, I was saying with forgiveness, a lot of people have said that, well, I can't forgive that person because I'm not ready to deal with them. So for me, forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to stay in toxic situations. So let's just be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is given the ability to no longer harbor that person for whatever they did to you so you can move on. It has nothing to do with having to stay in a bad situation or allow toxic people to stay around. That's not what that's for. Now, if you choose to build a relationship with that person again, then that's a choice. And some people can do
Right.
that. However,
Right.
if it continuously brings you pain, then don't do that. That's not what forgiveness is about. And I think that's where some people are like, I can't forgive because they feel like if I forgive you, I have to jump right back into being cool with you. And that's not the scenario at all. You are allowed to protect your peace while you are making room for that forgiveness and taking time to sit with yourself after you do forgive somebody to make sure you're in the right space to even be around other people, because some people even, I think for me, I can say in some scenarios I blocked some love people were trying to give to me because I was still hurting for something that somebody else did to me. And I think a lot of people do that. So that's how you know you're not healed, if you're constantly holding another person to the standard that you were hurt. um so for some of these comments, I know I had Miss Cherry. Oh, Mo says unpacking your trauma is vital for self-evaluation. And she also said, well, I had a whole bunch of people come in, sorry. Forgiving those who have hurt you and forgiving yourself. Cherry Bomb says we have to forgive for our own freedom. So all very much facts. Cherry Bomb also says, right, forgiving and moving forward creates peace. And Miss L says, come on. Um, Born to Reach says he got old provider. He got my old provider. Oh my goodness, I'm done with people. So I mean, and again, for everybody who is joining, every Tuesday we get on and we talk about some topic. We try to just uncover some trauma. We try to unpack some trauma and just reclaim some peace, because there's so much trauma, so much toxicity out there. And at some point, I would love to see it get better. And if some of my experiences, other people's experiences, help to heal some of these wounds instead of making it worse or contributing to new traumas, I'm all for it. So that's what we're doing here. Mo
Right.
says you have to endure a few hardships in order to gain an understanding. And I think that goes a lot with um, the mindset that you get from how you're raised, situations you've been through. It changes your perspective in things.
Right. And I just want to say real quick. So first off, thank you to I've been seeing people from my timeline pop, my from my Instagram pop in and out, and
Yeah, I see that.
whether they say anything or not, because I see people texting me and DMing me. Thank. I see him. I got a couple devices up, so I appreciate it, and I thank you for checking whether you just being nosy and checking it out or supporting or whatever. So, because everybody knows I don't get on these too much. So,
Right.
so thank you to Mo and China and all these other people I've seen. But I want to say this is an amazing platform. It's not just again about rape or anything like that, but
No.
this is a very open platform about different topics and very positive and what's going on right now without having to leave your house. You can come on this platform, also on Jay's platform. So make sure you say something, Jay, so people know about yours. It'll be on tomorrow. So I'll actually be on that tomorrow. But so I would just want to say these are things where you can come and just talk with other positive people. The hardest thing I would say, and like I said last week, when I try to have some intellectual conversation with people, unfortunately, you can't with a lot of
Right.
immature people, and sometimes it's not. You need strangers to open up and understand what you're going through, and because again, sometimes your hurt is my hurt, and our hurt equals our healing.
Yeah.
So even if it's not just about hurt or anything like that, maybe you might come on and just be entertained. Like you're not. TV is boring right now, so I would say tune
Real
in and
interaction.
right,
Yes,
and it's
thank
just
you.
so
Thank you for that. And thank you for
so.
coming on, because like you said, you usually be in the comments, the what Elle likes to call me, the comment wrangler.
Right,
But you
right.
usually do that, for me, you come in, you do, give me feedback and stuff, and I appreciate that. And even for me as a woman, it's nice to hear a male perspective on some of the topics that me and Elle talk about as well. So, just to give you guys a heads up on the other platform he's talking about, her page is called I Am LJ, and that's ELLEJAY. And she actually does Wind Down Wednesdays. Sometimes I jump on with her, but she is the host of that. And she's right now talking about the topic that I keep trying to talk about and we keep missing, but she's talking about rebuilding families. So she did give some statistics, especially about the Black community and how low on the totem pole we are for being able to keep families together. And so it's a great topic. Please, please, please continue to tune in and just hang out with us. I tend to be in the comments if I'm not hanging out, chilling with her. But one of the things I know she's going to talk about next is going to be the topic I tried to touch, which was it still take a village to raise a child, what that village should look like, all of that. So I'm gonna try to hit that again next week. But anytime, Q, anytime you can come on and just, I enjoy having conversations, because like you said, it's hard to have a conversation that is flowing, that is back and forth, and people being real and honest with it, because I'm very transparent with everything that I bring forward. So it's great to have someone who you can have dialogue with. So anytime, I'm happy to have you. So anytime you be like, oh, I got something to say about this, I'm happy to have you if you feel comfortable for that. But thank you so much for coming on. Um,
Absolutely.
we only got about 7 minutes, so I'm gonna jump just real quickly into some of the things people said about taking a village. What do you think about it taking a village? What's your stance on that? Do you think that's like way old school now, or
No, I think it still takes a village because you know we only have two eyes and we can only see but so much, and we're so
right?
busy with life, and again, hence why this quarantine is so important because we were so busy hustling, bustling, and doing what we had to do, and some people were yeah, 9 to 5 or 10 to 8 or whatever the case is. There's plenty of parents like who are not just working a 9 to 5; they're working like 3 jobs, 2 jobs,
Right, right,
just to put food on the table, and are not allowed to see their kids as much, which means the internet raised their kids, which means schools are raising their kids, and unfortunately, this is not back in the day where morals ruled. This is now
right.
where anything goes. I pick up my phone now and it's just like you go on Twitter and it's like the new Pornhub or, I always tell people like you can blink your eyes, but just know the same thing you could pick up your phone and see, so can your kids. So
Right.
uh, you want to be able to have people around you who If I can't make it to a football game, uncle can, or my best friend can, or my cousin
Right.
can, because at the end of the day, kids need support, and they need love. And I think every kid is different. Again, all right, baby. Speaking of kids, I got my daughter riding with me, but um, I would say when you think about kids, everybody's different. And when it comes to myself, I've never needed to be cradled and loved. I was always the black sheep because I'm dark skinned, because at the time I was super skinny and just everybody picked on me for every reason they could. Luckily, again, I was never the type of person that would just sit around and cry in it. But some kids, they need that love, they need that attention.
Right.
Some of everyone, I have four kids, and my kids are, uh, each one of them are different, and they need love in every different kind of way. So hence, like
Hmm.
right now, my daughter, she's 2. Today's her birthday.
Oh,
Um,
happy birthday!
I'm sorry, she's
So
3. She
cute.
turned 3 today. Thank you. So happy birthday, Mia. But she's a daddy's girl. So she
Yeah.
don't, I know like our routine is, for her, when she gets sleepy, dad drive me around in the car. Like she takes the keys, and I know my son is different. I got to play with different toys with him.
Right.
And with my daughter, I have to sit down and do this. And then with my other son, I have to, like, our bond is music and clothes. And so you have to know what your kids are about. But again, if you're not always there. So that's when other people come in. So having that village is super, super important. Matter of fact, I could say Mo on here. I know Mo because her mom and my mom were best friends. And my
Awesome.
mom and her mom used to go to, like, bingo, I'll put it out there, and all these other little things. And they would go out and have card games. And her older sister, she would come over and babysit us, and then, vice versa. Like, again, if when my mom had to work, her mom would take care. Like, we had a whole building where, all right, this person was out, they would call other parents, now go check on them, and every 15,
Right.
20 minutes. So that village is super important, and I think that's where we lack at.
I
And that's
agree.
why we in trouble now, because kids are raising themselves with no
Yeah.
guidance.
And it's important to take, like Elle says a lot, take inventory of who's around your kids too, because make sure it's the right
Yes,
people in your village. So, again, I'm gonna go ahead and let this pick up next week because I think it's a great topic. I am interested
absolutely.
to hear what elle's going to talk about tomorrow. So, just kind of gave y'all a jump into some of the things she'll be talking about. But both platforms are great, just like you said. I'm so thankful to have you supporting both of us. And again, anytime you want to come, I appreciate the feedback and just the back and forth. And even anybody who's on my platform who tunes in on Tuesdays who has questions for me, I'm open. I'm transparent. I'm a very open book. And I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't ready to talk about some things. So if you have some things, I'll never put your business out here. But if you have some things you want to discuss with me about, maybe you experienced something, maybe you're not sure or how to heal or start a process, you can hit me. My DM is open. My page is very unprivate. So I am public and you can join me in whatever you feel necessary to get to your healing, because that's what this platform's for. We got about a minute left. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for anyone who is new tuning in or even just jumped on to hang with Q. We appreciate you. I'm hoping everybody comes back. And that's pretty much it. You got anything? We got about a minute left.
No, just I appreciate y'all, ladies. This is definitely not my platform. If you go to my page, you're gonna see booty and breasts, and I laugh. But if you actually get to know me, I'm definitely way smarter, and my mind is bigger than just females' bodies. But to you, both of you beautiful ladies, y'all are amazing, and keep doing what you're doing. You'll always have my support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a blessed night. And again, this is Transformation Tuesdays where we reclaim ourselves, launch a war on trauma. We also are unpacking trauma and reclaiming our peace. I hope you reclaim some of your peace today. You guys have a wonderful day. I love you
Save this.
guys.
Make sure you save
Bye.
it.
I will. I will.
All right.